This is Greg Trotline with Maritime Reporter TV. We're here today with Buddy Custard, the CEO and president of the Alaska Maritime Prevention and Response Network. And to start us off, Buddy, thanks for joining us.
Well, Greg, thanks for having me to be able to speak to you in the maritime industry.
Okay, so Buddy, just to start, can you give us a by the numbers look at your organization?
Greg, we were started, the Alaska Maritime Prevention and Response Network was created in 2011. It was created by the maritime industry to make sure that they can meet U.S. federal compliance oil spill prevention regulations. And up in Alaska, it's very challenging to meet those regulations. They created a nonprofit organization. It's a very small organization. Actually, there's only 5 on staff, but the way we manage it is we work with a lot of great partners.
If you had to describe the Alaska Maritime Prevention and Response Network core mission, what is that core mission and what assets do you have at your disposal to enact that mission?
Well, our core mission is to ensure that vessel owner operators are in compliance with federal oil pollution prevention regulations and to protect mariners and the Alaska marine environment. That's the core. And the way we go about that is we have 3 tenets that we work at, because we look at it, oil pollution prevention has to be looked at holistically. So it's about prevent, respond, and pioneer. And with that is, the first thing is let's prevent an incident from ever happening in the first place. What prevention measures can we put in place? So we have several programs that we have with that and several partners. And one of our key partners on the prevention side of the house is the Alaska Marine Exchange of Alaska. And there we fund their monitoring center that keeps track of all the vessel movements that are happening out in the Aleutians of Western Alaska, as Northern Pacific, and up into the U.S. Arctic realm. If we do have an incident, we go to the response mode. So we've set up a huge response network working with the Alaska Response Organization, Alaska Shadow Corporation. They have over 26 years of experience operating up in Western Alaska. And they're also a nonprofit that's also governed by maritime executives that work up there on a daily basis. And we also work with Paradigm Marine that has a rescue tug that can go out there and provide assistance. Plus, we're the only group that has dedicated oil spill response ocean-going vessels. One's positioned in Dutch Harbor and one's positioned in Kodiak, so that we can respond if we need to on that side of the house. And then Pioneer, we also believe we need to leverage and keep looking forward. Using technology, how can we leverage technology to help us monitor vessel traffic? How can we use technology for better prevention type measures? We also look at how we can bring partnerships. We're also a very strong believer about its strength through partnerships. Without good partners, you can't have this kind of system, especially to work in Alaska. And Alaska is very challenging in that it's large. I mean, everybody knows how large Alaska is, but I don't think they fully understand. Just the Aleutian Islands alone is over 1,000 miles. There's less than 10,000 people in that entire stretch. It's rugged coastline, and that is some of the worst weather you can see on the globe happens in the wintertime up in the Aleutians. I mean, I've seen up to 4 to 6 low pressure systems that equal hurricane strength systems all at the same time. But you also have lack of infrastructure. So all that creates challenges if a vessel runs into problems, becomes distable in a drift, or unfortunately should run aground and we have an oil spill incident. How do we manage that? And those are the systems and the partnerships that we have to bring into play.
When you look at the cumulative area of your coverage, the number of vessels that you're watching after, the number of companies that are under your guise, can you give me a little insight on those numbers?
Yes. Right now, we monitor an area that's about 1.2 million square miles of coverage areas is what we're monitoring. The Great Circle Route is one of the largest shipping routes in the world on the Pacific Rim, because it's managing all the trade routes between Asia and North Americas. And they go through Alaska waters in the Northern Great Circle Route. And we monitor at least over 10,000 vessels, over 400 gross tons that we're monitoring on an annual basis up there on that side of the house. Alaska has over 44,000 square miles of coastline. which is more than the contiguous United States combined. So those are the large numbers that we're having to manage, is that kind of traffic up there and everything. And we have found through our monitoring that we have what we call a vessel of concern protocols, that if a vessel slows to less than 3 knots, we start to inquire them. It's mainly the large commercial vessels, because usually they're traveling anywhere between 20, 25 knots when they're going through the Great Circle Route. So if they really start to slow down, we leverage technology to find out what's going on. And since 2014, we've had over 1,300 vessels of concerns. Now, most of those vessels are slowing down because of weather ahead, or they're ahead of schedule, or they're just doing some training on board. But we found 28% of that 1,300 vessels actually had mechanical problems, unplanned. And most of those are benign and they're able to fix them, but they have to slow down to make the repairs. But we've had several situations where it starts to cascade, and we've had to work with the company and their providers, salvage marine firefighting providers, the state and the U.S. Coast Guard, to render assistance to those vessels so they would not drift up on the rocks. In our program, we have over 510 companies. I think we're about 518 companies that are enrolled with the network right now, comprising over 4,700 vessels.
When you look at the challenges that you face to enacting your mission, what do you consider to be your biggest challenge?
It's working with the shipping industry and making sure they understand Alaska, because Alaska is unique. And we're all about safe, sustainable shipping. That's what our board wants to make sure has happened, that everybody stays safe and the shipping can be sustainable. And I don't think people fully understand the challenges that we do face up there with the lack of infrastructure, that if we do have to mount a response, it's going to be extremely challenging because there is minimal infrastructure out there. The time distance equation is just huge to be able to respond out there because most of the shipping routes, you're in high population area. If you go down along the west coast of the United States, you're talking tens of millions of people, huge cities, huge infrastructures. When you come up to Alaska, you do not have any of that. So how do you set up a system to where first you can prevent things from happening? And if you detect something, how can you use time? What we have is what we call an ITC model, information time capabilities. The first thing we have to do is understand what's going on up there in the shipping lanes with the vessels that are moving, that are transiting. So that's why we have this, we leverage AIS, automatic information system technology. So we have a hybrid system of terrestrial and satellite coverage so we can monitor where the vessels are at any given time out there. That gives us information, what's going on, we can detect it. And by detecting something early, that gives us time to be able to mobilize systems out there. And we've created systems that can be put on small planes that can go into rugged areas and small airstrips, and also be placed on smaller vessels to be able to deploy out there, because that's important, being able to have equipment that you can rapidly move. Large, bulky equipment will not work up in Alaska. So it's just working with the shipping industry, the P&I clubs to understand the insurers that if there's a casualty, what's all entailed up here. And also when you work a casualty, you're also working at probably 1,000 miles away from where the actual casualty is taking place. And that in and of itself creates challenges.
So, buddy, I understand that earlier this year, your organization was the recipient of the prestigious Coast Guard Bankert Osprey Award for Environmental Protection. What exactly this means, I guess, in context to your organization?
Well, obviously, it's, we're very pleased to receive that award. It means a lot to us being a young organization, but it also instilled, it showed that the maritime industry is really doing the right things to protect the marine environment, and to be good stewards of the marine environment, to help do safe, sustainable shipping. Like I mentioned, we're a nonprofit organization that was created by the maritime industry and is managed by maritime executives, people that are actually involved in the shipping industry. So this is a lot for us, and being up here up in Alaska, it also highlights some of the challenges, because I think if you can overcome the challenges up here in Alaska, you can overcome these challenges anywhere in the world. And the best practices that we are developing are exportable to every place else on the globe to help protect the environment. And that's one of the things that I really like about the award, is kind of showcasing a lot of the pioneering efforts that we have done for tracking and monitoring, for response, quick mobilization response capability, and for leveraging technology, pioneering new ways to do things, and also setting up partnerships. As I mentioned before, we're a small organization, but we leverage partnerships. That is what I believe is key to all of this. And a case in point to illustrate that is something that we just started in 2019 is we created the Western Alaska Tanker Lightering Best Practice Committee. What that is all the tanker owner-operators that are delivering fuel to the remote villages of Western Alaska. There's about 60 remote communities in Western Alaska along the Bering Sea and the North Slope. And we work with the tanker operators and the barge operators that are doing the lightering operations with them. We brought them all to the table, and they're working together as a team to develop best practices on how to deliver this fuel, how to lighter it and deliver it. But in concert with that, we also have at the table the U.S. Coast Guard, representatives from the Coast Guard, and also from the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. We have the Marine Alaska pilots, part of that committee. And we also have NOAA Coast Survey part of that committee, because they're real thrilled because, as you know, up in the Arctic realm, the U.S. Arctic realm, many of the charts are not all that well updated as far as the depth and the bottom and everything else. So this is helping NOAA prioritize where to do a hydrographic survey to help maintain safe, sustainable shipping. Along with that, we have an environmental group, Ocean Conservancy, sitting on that committee, as well as the Alaska Shidell Corporation, the OSRO, and then our company. And this is facilitating a healthy discussion to prevent a spill, but also if we have one, how do we manage it? And these companies all share their best practices together. And that's just one recent example of partnership. And we've been doing that throughout our company. How can we set up good partnerships for response? What are the elements we need to bring for a good response organization? What are the partnerships we need to set up for a good prevention system? We model ourselves after the Aleutian Island Risk Assessment. That was an outcrop from the Saladang IU that happened over a decade ago. And a massive study, a 5-year study that was done on that. And we took that to build our model and our system. And being recognized by the Bankert Award, that means a lot, and it just affirms we're heading in the right direction, that the maritime industry is doing the right things to be able to help everybody for safe, sustainable shipping.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Well, buddy, you've been very gracious with your time. I appreciate it. You have a unique perspective. You work in a unique environment, and I truly thank you for joining us.
Well, Greg, thank you for the opportunity. Obviously, I like talking about our organization and up in Alaska and how we can support the maritime industry. So thank you for this opportunity. You have a good day and stay healthy.